New York accent, so I will try to speak slowly so that you can understand what I'm saying. We have a wonderful group of people from local government, from national government. I want to thank the Climate Minister for providing us with a very nice weather today, so thank you. And the mayor, thank you. Just some background, I'm President Kolos. I've been in business for 30 years. I've worked for Discovery Communications, Discovery Channel, for Nokia, and for the Associated Press. I have been honored to lead some of the most successful sales teams in the world, and our teams have generated about $2.5 billion in revenue over my career. We met the Climate Minister at the event earlier this week, and we were just astonished by the amount of press that we've received. So far, the BBC Worldwide has covered us live for a television interview. We've been covered by BBC Online, by CNBC, by Bloomberg, by the Chinese news service, and last night when I went to sleep, I had 5 more interview requests. So at some point, we'll get back to work. Steve Jobs said that great things in business are never done by one person. They are done by a team of people. And everyone here in this room is part of that team, and everyone watching is part of that team. I want to thank the mayor for his inspired leadership and the members of the municipal government for their help and assistance. For without their help and assistance, we wouldn't be here today. We also have the inspired leadership of the Prime Minister and his team, the architecture brilliance from HDR, from the investment bank Headwaters, and to our creative agency Bartok. I also want to acknowledge our team, which is Mark Robinson, if you could identify yourself, Mark, Hobart, Paul, and Seagate. I also want to acknowledge Morton Raystad, who is very much part of this project, and unfortunately is no longer with us. So thank you very much for everyone's contribution. Lastly, Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." trying to think of a way to express Kolos, which means cooperation and magnificence. And we spoke with Mark after our meeting with the mayor and his team, and we thought that an appropriate way to call it was Kolos, powering the future. So I'd like to introduce Hobart, who basically has dedicated himself to the community, to using the natural resources, the hydropower and natural resources of Norway, and the people of Norway, who are a natural resource in and of themselves, to take it from here.
Thank you all for coming today. This is a real pleasure for me and our team to have you all here, Minister, American visitors, local people. I'm really proud that you come here and want to show curiosity and want to show your support for what we try to do. You have an idea about sort of we are trying to set the bar quite high, and we need your help in achieving this. This is not a short-term project. It's not like we can stop this or we have like an ambition in just a few months or just a few years. This is like a decade of effort. We want to be here for the long term. We want to create value and jobs in the society. And I think the way that Ballangen has welcomed this project, like Ole Petter, he has done a terrific job in helping us navigate, helping us understand how to do this. The chief of staff, Knut Einar, the mayor. So I think we can say it has been a terrific way to meet the community and to cooperate with the community that wants a change. And then we can try to accomplish and make these jobs and create value in this society. We have a few things that we'd like to share with you, and that's the purpose of this conference. So I will leave you with those words, and the mayor, please, you can join and say also a few words.
Vi politikere, vi liker den talerstolen, så vi tar den der. Jeg har bedt om å ta det på norsk, og det er jo litt klart. Jeg må si at det er jo ekstra hyggelig at klima- og miljøvernministeren stiller. Det setter vi stor pris på. Selvfølgelig.
I'll try to help for the English audience. So I really appreciate that the climate minister is joining us here today. We really appreciate that.
Selvfølgelig velkommen til våre amerikanske, jeg kaller det aktører, både arkitekter og investorer.
And please, and also a special welcome to our American players, investors and architects.
Og så har jeg ordførerkollegaer fra regionen som også er til stede.
And my fellow colleagues and mayors in the region.
Dette prosjektet det startet i regi av Ofoten regionråd, altså såkalt byregionsprogram, som er finansiert av KND og Nordland fylke.
This project originated from Ofoten region of Ofoten, like a collaboration of 5 municipalities, and the support also from KMD, which is the government.
Ja, og for ca. 1,5 år siden så begynte det første møtet her i rådhuset, hvor representanter fra regionen og fra næringslivet var samlet, hvor også Håvard var til stede.
And we had a meeting 1.5 years ago in this very house where players from the local business, him and myself, were here to look at possibilities.
Og vi skulle gjøre noe så enkelt som også finne frem til de fortrinnene som vi har i regionen og i kommunen. Og fortrinnene er jo etter hvert rimelig kjent.
We wanted to find the natural advantages that this region has, and those advantages have been quite well known now over the last period of time.
Så etter å ta det ikke minst så er krafta til en utrolig lav pris. Det hevdes at det er verdens laveste kraftpris. Og så har vi tilgang til hastighetsfiber, såkalt mørkfiber. Og så ligger vi nord for polarsirkelen, så vi har et kaldt klima som også er en stor fordel. Og så har vi i tillegg, hvis det er behov for det, tilgang til sjøen.
So those are a lot of advantages, huh? So a large area, the power situation, the sustainability, and yeah, we can get back to those later.
Thank you, Ola.
Yeah, the very low power prices, that is quite unique in Europe, maybe also in the world. So yeah, there are some really strong advantages combined with the dark fiber that is already here. It doesn't have to be built, it's already here.
Og så ikke minst så er det jo snakk om arbeidskraft. Universitetet i Norge ligger 4 mil unna, så utdannet den type arbeidskraft.
And then the workforce and access to yeah, the workforce and the university, that is 40 kilometers away from here in Norway.
Jeg må jo nevne som lokalpolitiker så kan du ikke unngå å nevne også at da dette deponiet skulle etableres, og det var det en del støy. Men allerede da så vi muligheter for å kunne utnytte arealene til næringslivet.
So as a local politician, I also have to admit that there was some worries when we established this landfill out there. But you said that they were sort of foreseeing that they could use this land for the future.
Ja, og nå er det være spesielt gledelig for ministeren at et miljødeponi kan brukes til noe så fornuftig som næringsareal.
And it must be especially pleasing for the minister that this landfill can be a useful thing for business going forward.
Og vi snakker jo også om nordområdesatsing, og etter vår mening et mer konkret prosjekt enn det her er vel vanskelig å finne.
And we talk about looking to the north for business opportunities, and I think it's hard to find a more concrete project than this one.
Og vi snakker også om det grønne skiftet. Dette prosjektet må vel kunne sies å ha det meste i seg for å kunne ha den benevnelsen.
And we talk about the green shift, and this project must, I say, have most of that also.
Ja, og Ballangen kommune er jo en liten kommune. Men jeg kan love på vegne av den lille kommunen at vi skal gjøre alt hva vi kan for å bidra for å realisere dette prosjektet.
So Ballangen municipality is a small municipality, but I can promise that we will do whatever it takes to help you realize this.
Men vi må jo også innrømme at vi må nok ha hjelp både fra regionen, fra fylkeskommunen og ikke minst fra sentrale myndigheter.
But we have to admit that we need help also from the region, from the county, and from the national government also.
Og da håper jeg at denne dagen kan føre til at vi kan knytte gode kontakter, sånn at alle som kan og vil være med på å bidra til at det prosjektet kan bli realisert. Så det vil jeg bare ønske lykke til.
So I hope that we can use this day to make connections and help this project succeed. So I wish you the best of luck.
I'd like to introduce Mark Armisen, who is co-CEO of Kolos. Mark, before you start, can you explain about your background?
Absolutely. First of all, a number of people here actually know me, but my background is I'm an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. I've had a number of startups and I've been in some large scale companies as well. If you look, probably what I'm best known for is if you walk into pretty much any cell phone store and buy a cell phone, there's a pretty good chance you're using some piece of technology that I've been involved in. I was on a design and development team and ultimately ran the team that created the very first GUI mobile browser. And then I went on to really cut my teeth at companies like OpenWave, which was a big mobile company at the time, and done work with Intel and Apple and a number of others. I actually split my time between Norway and Palo Alto, California, and a little bit of London mixed in as well. So you'll see me quite a bit. I think if I totaled up the projects or products rather that I've released into the market, there's been somewhere on the order of about $2 billion in revenue and a lot of good teams to make it all happen. And now I'm here. So I essentially run the company with Hovard, and a lot of what we do is about building good teams and good communities, because you can't have a good company unless you have those. You know, it just takes a few people who aren't focused and 100% in to know that they can sink a company. You need good people who are committed, and that's what actually a lot of this is about. We've been trying to find vendors, we've been trying to build relationships, we've been trying to work with architects and engineers who are absolutely committed to the success here, because we know what's really at stake. If I look at the land that we're in, it's really the middle of the town. It's a great piece of land, and whatever we do here is going to impact this community to a very great extent. Hovard and I got involved in this, and one of the things that I said to him is, whatever we do, we have to make sure that there's some lasting impact and some lasting positive impact on the community around this project. And when we put together the request for a proposal from architects, we put together a pretty lengthy document, probably pretty boring at the end of the day, but a big part of that was about the community. Now, one of the things I should say about that is we sent this request for a proposal out to really the top architects in the world. I mean, you could have gone down a list of the top 10 architectural firms, and we had some contact with all of them. We sent this proposal out, and really what we were going for was something that was going to really blend in with the surrounding environment, and that would be an asset to the community. I mean, we've made jokes about having a Starbucks in this building, which he really wants, by the way. But what I want to see is a community, is a series of buildings where we could keep everyone's data secure, and at the same time, I want to see the people in the community interacting with the buildings. So if we put a restaurant into the building, the community should take advantage of the restaurant. If we put an exercise facility in the building, maybe the community will take advantage of that. So the goal is to have something that really acts as an asset to the community. And it's not just about that. It's also about the jobs that are created. A facility like this requires good, strong, technically minded people, but it also requires security guards, people who fix things when they break down. It requires fuel companies to bring things in. It requires trucking companies to bring computer modules in. It really does take a large community to build a project like this, and at the scale we have it at. A lot of you haven't, some of you, I'm sure, have seen the land for a good part of your life. A lot of you might not have. And when you go and see the land this afternoon, which I would invite everyone to do, you're going to understand how immense this project really is. It's a lot of logistics. We've had spent a good portion of yesterday talking about how are we going to truck materials into the facility, and where do we want power substations, and how do we do things in a way that don't disturb the community around us, but just add to it. So that's been a very big part of this entire project. Now let me say something about the technology piece, because I'm a technologist at the end of the day, and that's the part I really get excited about. This is a real opportunity. I mean, this community has been part of the mining community of Norway, and that's starting to change. And now it's got this opportunity to go into a different kind of mining. It has the opportunity to go into data mining, which is my part of the world, and I'm very excited about that. And my hope is that the people here participate in that. And you'll have opportunities to look very closely at how we're designing this and how we're working with people. My hope is we're hiring a lot of students from the technical university up the road. I'm really excited about that. And I hope you'll be participants. You know, we brought these models in, which they'll talk about shortly, but we brought these models in because we want you to see what's driving us and how we're trying to make sure that this is a real asset to all of you. I guess the one last thing I would close on is one of the things we're really trying to do is change the entire industry. The idea today, when you build a data center, is you go to a city like London or Paris or Amsterdam or New York or New Jersey or San Francisco, and you tend to build your data centers right where your engineering teams are. And that's starting to change because the power situation globally is changing. It's getting harder to acquire power in local markets. And the connectivity situation is changing as well because fiber is starting to reach a lot of new areas of the world. So we looked at all these situations and how expensive it's getting to build a data center in big metropolitan areas like London, and we said there has to be a better way to do this. And we also did something else. We looked at data centers in each of these regions and tried to figure out what was going on in the local markets. And one of the most interesting things is if you look at a market like London or Paris or Amsterdam, any of those markets, you'll find that there's only about 2 years worth of supply of data centers left in those markets. And there's very few permits that are being dropped on new data centers in those markets because it's so expensive. If you have to build a building in downtown London, that's not cheap. That's really hard to do. And you have to get services drawn in and power drawn in. That's very expensive. So our goal is to become a way for them to shift that capacity over to the area where the power is the cheapest in the world and where it's all renewable and really do some good for the environment and help companies save a lot of money and focus their businesses in ways they haven't been able to focus before. So that's what really drives us at the end of the day. It's this community, it's the way we can help the business, the overall market. It's the fact that Hovar and I at the end of the day would like to say Bollingen was the source of changing the cost for the entire data center industry. And it really can start here. There is no place that I've found in Europe that really has better power prices than here. And there's very few places where I can find better connectivity. So that's where the opportunity is. And I'm really glad you were able to join us today. We're going to have other people come on board. I think the next folks are from HDR. I'm very excited that they were able to join us. They can talk to you a little bit about the influences that brought about the design that we're going to use for this data center. I want to thank you.
I'd like to invite Doug, who's the president of HDR Architecture, who's flown in very, very far. I'd also like to acknowledge James, who's sitting in the back and is the CEO of the family. And if you could say a few words and introduce your team, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you. Mark was bold in saying that this project will change the industry. I think I'm going to even be more bold in saying that I actually believe that this project will change the world for the better. As a model, I mean that sincerely. I think as a model for what data centers will become, this will be the first. And if you look at the just some very quick statistics, but data centers right now globally use up more energy than, they would use the same amount of energy as the UK times 1.5. Okay, that's 3% of the world's power is dedicated towards data centers. And that's expected to double in the next 4 years. And by the way, that's also accountable for 2% of the world's off-gassing, which is causing climatic problems. So having a project that is run off of clean, renewable energy this is exceptional. And we are privileged to be able to work on this project. And I just want to thank everyone involved for all the work that's led up to this moment to where you're bringing a design team on board to realize all of your expectations. thank you very much for this opportunity. And just to close, I think that all projects, the great projects have three things in common. They have a vision, which this project certainly has. They have commitment, which I think we have commitment at all levels, municipality, the national government, as well as our companies. And lastly, there's a sense of responsibility. And I think that the sense of both social and environmental responsibility that is part of this project is the thing that's going to make it the most special and unique. So with that, I'm going to ask Brian Kowalczyk to come up. He's our global design director, and this idea is his. And I want him to walk you through it in detail. So, Brian.
Thank you very much, Bill. So I have some slides to show, but I'm not sure if you'll see them. There's some models in front of us. But I would say to start that technology is our friend. Okay? But anybody who knows or has one of these knows that technology can get in the way of many things. It might take over. Multiply this times 100 million, and you see the scale of the data center we're doing here. So be careful of technology, treat it well, but understand it's our friend. And so I'm going to walk through the design now and what the implication was, what we were trying to do. And I think the first thing I would say is that it needs some balance. When you see many data centers globally and worldwide, they're like a cell phone times 100 million. Big, giant boxes, 70 meters tall, hundreds of meters long and wide. And they tend to be unfriendly to the inhabitants around them. If you look at the wall, and look here, what's inspiring and what inspired us to do this design had to do with landscape. Landscape is not rectangular. Landscape is not straight. Landscape has motion. When you come here, when you drive, when you fly to the airport, you come to the city, you drive the fjords, you realize that the power of the landscape is not just about irregularity, but it's about movement. You see the water moving down the mountains. You see the forces that shape those mountains. And you'll see then the start of how we design the building. It's not square. It's shaped by a series of forces, if I can go ahead. It's shaped by forces that create collision. And that collision is what you see around us. And that collision creates light and motion and movement. Move ahead, if you could. And then what we tried to do is create, it's hard to see here, we can see the model later on. It's a series of modules that stagger down the landscape that have two things associated with it. The first has to do with move ahead. A series of green roofs and green landscape on top of the buildings, but they're regularly placed in such a way that I believe it relates to and directly responds to the mountains that surround it. The starting point and the origin is of the sea, and how the sea comes into the site. And the origin from the other side is from the mountains and the water that goes down through. So the circulation and the people movement in the building is replication of that movement of water. And the building's a replication of the glacier and mountains above it. It's kind of simple. But it's simple because the landscape is beauty and beauty is simple. And so that balance between that landscape and that beauty, innovation and technology is what this is about. Move ahead one if you would. One more. And if you understand then, this is kind of the site plan that shows those modules and how it relates to the sea in one direction, to the mountains on the other. Move ahead one more. And this photo is not doing it justice, but it's your city, it's your town. And yesterday, this is a photograph I took yesterday walking by and saying, this is going to be also connected to our building. And Mark spoke about the potential of it being a Starbucks, for example, or being other activities that can take place, the walking trails, the pathways, the connectivity. It might spill over and become part of your connection to the water and your connection to a way of having this town be engaged in this building. So the building is meant to be one that's fitting in with the landscape and fitting in with the technology, but most importantly, fitting with people. People who work in the building and fitting with people who actually see this building from afar. That's truly important to have a balance between those three issues that move ahead. Now, I would say too, that this is looking out to the sea and you see this, the sky there, but in fact, the beauty of this is not just about what you see of the building, but it's what you see from the building. Move ahead one more. You start to understand that the main community component faces the water and becomes engaged with the water and becomes something that actually you can use to actually be engaged with that community. Move They had one more, and it shows the inside of that building looking out to that water. So I want to capture that same view that's there today, the same spirit, the same sense of emotion, and place that in this facility as well. And so technology can be your friend, which is critical. One more thing is, thinking of friends, I've made many friends here. And looking at last night, the Sami dinner that we had, I was kind of taught about the kind of local ways of building construction, local ways in which homes go together, and looking at the history of the past of construction in this area, and understanding the idea of the gamma, understanding how they're created, having roofs and conical shapes. But it's about community in the gamma. And so we're going to be calling this facility a data gamma. And that's the way moving forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And if you weren't able to see the images, we'll make them available to you later, just because there is a one.
Had the opportunity to meet here, Vice Helgeson, Minister of Climate and Environment, speak a few days ago, and truly inspiring. Viter was the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister. He was also the Secretary General of the International Institute for Democracy and Elections. He recently met with Governor Brown in California and signed a very important climate agreement between the state of California and Norway. And he's quoted to say, "I see great opportunities for Norway companies in this agreement." He is truly one of the leaders in the world for global leadership in the green economy, and I'd like to introduce you to Viter Helgeson.
Launch of Kolos and the plans for the Norway's assets as being a host for data centers. We know that these companies have a commitment to 100% clean energy by 2020. And if they are to achieve that, they need to have data centers powered exactly by clean energy. So this is a win-win situation. Norway needs to build green competitiveness. It's a high priority of the government. We have an expert team working on a report for green competitiveness. We have all sectors of the economy presenting roadmaps for green competitiveness. We're currently finalizing a government strategy for Norway's green competitiveness of the future. So this is a major priority for the government. And a growing data center industry can create green jobs and therefore be an important contribution to Norway's green competitiveness. We will help those big international companies in the process reducing their climate gas emissions and their environmental footprint. And we are really at a turning point in a technological sense and in terms of climate change. We're seeing climate change already altering ecosystems and weather systems. And the Arctic is actually harder hit than most. Climate in the Arctic is warming twice the temperature of the global average. That also changes the basis for our economy. But it has at the same time led to a global energy revolution. Solar and wind power. When I was a kid, solar and wind was called alternative energies. Now it's the majority of the solar capacity, new capacity internationally. We see acceleration of technology, and the digital technologies are part of that. Robotics, automation, artificial intelligence, big data, all of those technological shifts are making things happen very fast. And Norway, in the transformation we need to act. We need to be in the forefront. We want to be a good place to come for new technologies and new technologies. We need that also, of course, because while we're still going to have oil and gas for many, many years to come, the golden era of oil is behind us. We need to build future industries. Yes, we need to care about the jobs we have, but we need as politicians as well to care more and more for the jobs we need to create in the future. And we have a good starting point. We have expertise in several important areas, such as renewable energy, offshore technologies, green shipping technologies. We're working to support and stimulate green competitiveness and green transformation across the board. And all sectors and all industries must contribute. We need to have major changes in the way we move and ship goods, in the way we construct buildings, and how we exploit natural resources. Projections for 2020 show that our greenhouse gas emissions are going down. And that's a good start. We need to have them reduced further. The Paris Agreement sets a very ambitious direction. A number of measures already put in place will help us achieve the climate goals. Electric car or electric vehicle policy, for example. There's nothing that I'm interviewed more by international media about than Norway's electric vehicle policy. We have already a Norwegian brand in the making of Norway being the electric country. And that will also help us in being a good place for electric investments like data centers. One of the things that the committee that worked on Norway's green competitiveness points out is that there's not one particular initiative or policy or measure that is needed. We need a lot of initiative. We need a lot of decisions. We need many small and big decisions that will make it to the green transformation. There's no single business that will bring new oil for Norway. So our strategy has to be to turn policy in many areas towards a low carbon economy and a low carbon community. But clearly, with digital revolution, with our need and the opportunities to communicate more efficiently, stay informed, and create spaces
getting set up. There were 2 people that couldn't make it, so they are sending a video message. Thanks again. So give me 1 second to get set up for that. But I also, Kevin and Steve, while I'm getting set up, please feel free to say anything. Nothing like putting you on the spot.
Thanks, Dan. I hadn't prepared to say anything today, but I will say that I've been involved in data centers since the late 90s. Facilities for companies like Equinix, for major financial institutions like Charles Schwab. And I just want to say that this is truly a cutting-edge facility that we're designing, and it's an honor to be involved in this. Unique, not only in its opportunities for significant energy reduction and a non-existent carbon footprint, but also because of the unique construction technology that's proposed here, and the notion of factory fabrication and prefabrication of large portions of the facility is also a very unique technological approach and will help Kolos in being able to respond quickly to market conditions. So in addition to a very compelling design solution here, we also are embracing technology on many levels to deliver a product that we hope will be very successful in the marketplace.
The next message is from Myung Choi, who is one of the co-founders of an agency in New York called Bartok. They're a leading strategic communications company. They work for companies like Samsung, Estee Lauder, and here is Neil.
They're also responsible for a lot of the logistics around this event and a lot of the, helping us support a lot of the press.
We developed the Kolos brand identity to express a true integration of technology and nature, and to communicate the core attributes that includes sustainability, green energy, positive impact on the community, and respect for the power and beauty of nature. We're also really inspired by the Kolos leadership team and their desire to create a data center from a human point of view. Their desire to create the largest data center powered by 100% renewable energy, the amazing architecture designed by the amazing HDR that just beautifully blends in with the landscape, and the positive impact on the community, which is very important to them, all became the seed for our branding challenge. With this rapid acceleration of technology, I think we all have to ask ourselves, how can we service the world community with data services that is truly sustainable? So for me, Kolos really represents how people can live in harmony with nature. We leverage branding and design to help Kolos express these points and send a unified message to the world that we are powering the future. Powering the future of human connectivity, powering the future of human evolution, and powering the future of ideas that make the future look really bright for all of us. So we are really excited to be a part of this very momentous project. We developed the Kolos brand.
The last is from our investment bank, Headwaters, and this is the CEO of Headwaters, Paul Jansen.
Hi, my name is Paul Jansen. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Headwaters MB. I'd like to start today by thanking the Mayor, the Climate Minister, the entire Kolos team, and HDR for allowing Headwaters to be part of this incredible project that we're going to talk about. Headwaters MB is the largest middle market investment bank in America. We've got a deep capital markets knowledge and a track record of successfully raising capital for technology and telecom infrastructure projects. We look forward to working with the entire Kolos team to make this the most innovative, lowest cost data center, environmentally data center in Europe. It represents a one-of-a-kind opportunity to change the data center paradigm globally. Currently, operators are hosting data centers in some of the largest cities across Europe, where real estate and electricity costs are prohibitive. The Kolos project will be the largest data center in the world powered by hydroelectric and wind power. For us, we believe this is a game changer in the industry and will be a model to help others understand how to reduce carbon emissions and eliminate reliance on fossil fuels throughout the data center world. Let's talk about investor highlights for a moment. There are 4 key ones that I'd like to mention. The first is the location and the value proposition. Kolos will be located in a piece of property that allows for 100% green data center operations. We have in place a huge dark fiber bundle and abundant hydropower, which will provide for the lowest OpEx of any data center in all of Europe. The climate enables natural air and water cooling, and northern Norway happens to have the lowest electricity costs across Europe. The site itself is surrounded by some of the most beautiful scenery you've ever seen. Both the water and the hills will allow for a physical barrier to any sort of problem a data center might encounter. Over and above that, our IT and cybersecurity technology teams will have the most advanced cybersecurity technology in the industry inside the data center. Another thing that has me very excited about this from an investor highlight perspective is, based on our analysis, we believe this will have at least a 50% OpEx cost advantage over any other data center in the world, not just in Europe. So for an investor to think about something like that is incredibly exciting. We also believe that that OpEx advantage will grow as the years go by because predominantly of the green nature of the data center and the low electricity prices in Norway. Third, the management team. If you spend even 5 minutes with Håvard Lillebo and Mark Robinson, you'll see the passion and industry expertise they bring to this project. They're building a world-class technical, construction, sales, and operations team with decades of IT, data center, fiber, and design experience. The last item I would mention is the significant growth potential. As most folks in the data center business know, data forecasts show that by 2025, humanity will generate around 180 zettabytes of data. That's 1 trillion gigabytes of data per year. That's a lot of YouTube videos. More than 10 times the data being driven today. Think about that just for a moment. We'd all like to be part of helping humanity figure out how to manage that data. I welcome anybody who would be interested in learning more about this project to contact me at Headwaters MB, and I would be more than happy to talk to you about it. Thank you very much for allowing me a few moments to speak to you, and I hope you all have a great event. Thank you. Hi, my name is Paul Jansen. I'm the president.
We have one more treat, and the Prime Minister talked about Berlingen being on the map, and well, it's on a lot of maps. And so here is something that was on the air earlier this week from the BBC. you very much for attending today's event. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to a very bright future. Thank you.